Um, Definitely movement is helpful
Yeah,
for me. So I'm not really um a stationary person.
yeah.
So anything that has movement in it is helpful for me. And that's both physically and psychologically.
Yeah.
So
Hi, I'm Eve Moses Cunningham, and you're listening to the Feel Better Everyday podcast. You can find out more and access older episodes at the feelbettereverydaypodcast.com, and you can also access loads of free resources and find out more about the book 365 Ways to Feel Better, Self-Care Ideas for Embodied Wellbeing, the column I write for Platinum every month, other titles I contribute to, my work, loads of free resources I've created over the years. I really hope you enjoy this episode. And if you haven't already signed up for my free newsletter, it goes out on a Monday, Mila Buikos Mondays. Mila Buikos means 1,000 thank yous in Irish, which I'm very slowly learning. And the idea is it's polyvagal informed journal prompts to help you each week. There's the gratitude practice element, figuring out more of what brings you joy on a daily basis, what helps you feel in that ventral vagal, what I call purr when I use the rescue cats with the polyvagal purrs approach. And I also share some of my own gratitude, some of the things that have helped me feel more in ventral vagal that week. Some of those will be resources that might benefit you. And I also share news about upcoming events, special offers, things like that. But the journal prompts also include encouragement to look at what is creating sympathetic survival responses that hiss with the polyvagal pairs approach, and potentially the dorsal vagal freeze. So it's really helping you learn to map your own nervous system, get to know yourself, and get to support yourself. And it's all free. So if you haven't already, you can sign up at selfcarecoaching.net. And if you have any questions, again, let me know, eve at selfcarecoaching.net. I hope you enjoy this episode. So, welcome, John Wilson. Thank you so much for joining me. It's
thank you. Yes, thank you for having me on the podcast.
my
It's
absolute
appreciated.
pleasure.
Yes.
So I know you through online events. I was one of the presenters at the conference last year for neurodivergence around the rescue cats.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I think you've done so incredibly with what you've created and providing so much support to so many people. And I also really, obviously, I don't know you very well, but you seem to embody this calm, or you exude this calm, where I imagine your life is anything but with all you're dealing with. So I ask my guests about their ideal and actual self-care. But I'll start by just asking you to introduce yourself, maybe say a little bit about online events and anything you want to allow people to find, where they can find you online, or anything you want to plug or promote.
Thank you, Eve. Well, thank you for having me on the podcast. It's
You're
very
so welcome.
generous, and it's lovely to be here and be in the conversation with you and the listeners as well. As you say, I'm part of online events. I'm one of two directors. A director with my sister, Sandra Wilson. So we're a sibling team. What could I say about online events? We started in 2009, so we were really early in
Yeah,
the online learning space, particularly in the helping professions. Um, so we've had lots of different kinds of adventures,
yeah,
and that there was a big increase in the scope of our work over the pandemic as well,
yeah,
because so many more colleagues came online. That allowed us to run a lot more things and create a lot more experiences for the helping professions
yeah.
community. Um, so we, I think since the pandemic, we've run just almost about 3,000 events, and it's
Wow.
we're not doing yes, yeah,
Wow. That's not like, that's a short period of time for an enormous
yeah.
amount. Yeah.
But it took us about 10, the first 10 years to get
Yeah.
to maybe, I think we were at around 800 events.
Yeah.
And then we've done since,
Whoosh.
yeah, it's really exploded. And we do about 700 or 800 events a year now with maybe about 10 to 20 conferences. So yeah, we keep ourselves busy. So although often colleagues are seeing me on the video, I'm just the face of a very, very good team.
Okay.
So yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's not just obviously as a director, as a co-founder, you have set the tone for that team. You have
Hmm,
like kind of
hmm.
don't sell yourself short. But I will ask you, so where can there'll be a link in the show notes, but it's onlineevents.co.uk, isn't it? With just one E in the middle.
Yes, that's a really important part
I
of the
learned from
to remember.
experience.
Yes, okay, thank you for that. It seemed like a cool idea when we started the company, but I think it's got a lot of people lost. But yes, online events, one, so you spell it
Yeah,
onlineevents.co.uk, but we say online events. So
yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
And I'll ask you about your ideal and actual self-care for the different parts of the Feel, Love, Heal framework. So the feel bit is that
Mm,
regulatory, lowercase, like hyphenated self-care, the things we actively do to help ourselves feel better. Um, Sometimes we have the bandwidth for that, other times we don't, and it can be easier to move into that kind of love, self-acceptance, but often that's harder. But that kind
mhm,
of what helps you remember you're part of the divine part of nature. You don't need to do a thing to improve. And then finally, the heal bit is the co-regulation, the collective care, the
mm,
community, the how you provide, obviously, even more than I'd realized, community space for others. And also, you've mentioned your team, but like what else you use to hold yourself, like how you let
mm,
yourself be held. So in each
mm.
area, the ideal and the actual. So
Yes.
if we start with feel and the like kind of regulatory, what would be your ideal self-care practices?
Um, Definitely movement is helpful
Yeah,
for me. So I'm not really um a stationary person.
yeah,
So anything that has movement in it is helpful for me. And that's both physically and psychologically.
yeah,
So of course, working at the computer, there can be a lot of stationary time. So
yeah,
definitely having periods in the day where there's movement.
yeah,
And my well, you can imagine with all those events and the team to take care of, and
yeah,
the day can get really intense. So
yeah,
the ideal thing for me is to be up early, get a little bit of work done, get out and get an hour's walk in,
yeah,
so that it's kind of grounded with some nature, and then back into work. So something about
yeah,
breaking, like getting a little bit done, then doing something. Well, to care for myself, I guess, and
yeah,
to sustain myself.
absolutely.
While I'm walking, I'll also have a kind of meditation practice that I can
Yeah,
listen to while I'm walking as well. So sitting meditating isn't easy for me. So if I'm in movement
yeah,
and also having that kind of psychological and emotional experience while
yeah,
I'm on the move can really help integrate that for me. So yeah.
yeah.
It sets me up
And
for the day. Mm.
wonderful. What about later in the day? Like, what would be ideal things to fit in?
I think, I mean, the important thing for me is getting enough sleep. The
Uh-huh.
temptation for me is just to squeeze the sleep time. And then, of course, it always catches up with you, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
If you keep overdrawing the bank, get
Yeah.
in a lot of trouble. So finishing work, having a little bit of downtime, and then making sure I've got enough time for sleep is really, really important. I mean, it sounds like a very basic thing, but that for me really impacts how my
Yeah.
day and my week goes. Yeah.
I interviewed Tracy Otsuka, who wrote ADHD for Smart Ass Women, and she said she used to get by on 3 or 4 hours sleep. And then she found out that it has huge health implications. So she actually started setting a timer to sound like bells and pretended that she was Cinderella to beat the revenge bedtime procrastination and race around to get to bed by the time she wanted to gamify it. And I still have the
Wonderful.
revenge bedtime procrastination, but even remembering that it's something. We live in a world that's so go, 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 but yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Um, so what helps you, like you've mentioned they're basic, but they're essential. If you don't have time for your hour and if you don't have time for your full like sleep routine, what would be the essentials? What would be the actual self-care?
Well, I'm pretty good about getting my hour in the morning, and I think there's something about having a non-negotiable in your day.
Yeah,
But there are days when it isn't possible. So sometimes I might still go out at the same time, but maybe just do 15 minutes,
yeah,
20 minutes or something, or look for opportunities in the day where I might maybe have, I might have a little break. I think, okay, I want to get out and have a little bit of movement. So I think it's also easy for me to think, well, if I can't do what I've planned, I'm not going to do it. Whereas you can do a
yes,
little bit of it. So,
yeah,
and I think that's been an important realization for me. Again, it seems obvious. Why can't you just go out for a little bit? But it's easy to go, well,
yeah,
if I can't do the full hour, what's the point? And just
yes,
uh, kind of negotiating a bit with myself, or
yeah,
later in the day. Maybe if I had to have a busier start in the morning, there might be a little bit of a space opens up later in
yeah.
the day. So yeah. Mm.
And that's so important because it's so easy for us to talk ourselves out of the things. If we can't do what we imagine is the idyllic thing, well, won't bother at all. A lot of people would love to do 15, 20 minutes and they struggle to manage
Yes.
that. So
Yes.
just having that plan B and yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's more I I I'm not able to quote who this is, but I was listening to something because sometimes I'm listening to the meditation, I'm like, I'm not in the right mood. I feel
yeah,
like it's not going in properly. And I was listening to someone saying about meditation. Well, if you go out in the rain, it's hard not to get wet. And I thought that was the kind of great thing. So sometimes I'm walking and I'm not managing to be that grounded,
yeah,
or there's something else I'm thinking about. And it's hard to kind of get back there. But just sometimes I'll just tell myself or kind of remind myself of
yeah,
that um, little piece of thinking. And I think it's really helpful to like something is happening, even if it's not the full 100% experience. So yeah.
yeah. And it's we put so much pressure on ourselves, don't we, to have like the proper experience rather than everything as information. And yeah, I guess like I'm thinking just step by step and like raindrop by raindrop, it's very grounding anyway. You're getting that fresh air, you're getting the benefits of being out in nature. And what about
Absolutely.
the love element, the self-acceptance, the love archetype in psychosynthesis, the kind of you're part of the divine, you're part of nature, you don't need to do a thing to improve yourself. What
Hmm.
helps you with that ideally and as a essential?
Yeah. Um, I I think that's one of the things that the screens don't help with because I mean I'm like everybody else. I've got a to-do list I'll never get to the bottom of. That's just part of life, and there's always another email, or there's so yeah, it is definitely a real challenge, and I think being outside. Ideally for me, water is really great. If I can be near a river or a larger body of water,
Yeah,
really, really helpful. But that's not often that isn't possible for me.
yeah,
So I might be walking along a road or something,
yeah,
not on the road, but a path
yeah,
that's along a road. But sometimes I can be in a place where maybe there's a little bit of trees beside the road, and
Yeah.
um, so even just a little bit of nature is really, really helpful to kind of
Yeah.
feel part of that. And that I was in a place a few weeks back, and it was really frosty, and um, I was kind of walking along a road with a path and a kind of a wall with some trees, and
Yeah.
there was some robins kind of jumping on and off the wall and off to do their
Yeah.
thing, and then I'm saying they're coming back, not
Yeah.
really to see me, I suppose, but they're doing their thing, and it's just a tiny, tiny little thing, but it you feel like you're. I kind of had that feeling of being part of something, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And what helps when you're not, when you're feeling potentially disconnected? What like helps you remember that we all are? And
Mhm.
like, say, if you're not outside, if you're just at home or at work.
I think I'm lucky because every day I've got meetings with colleagues about events, or I'm in
Yeah.
an event, or I'm also a psychotherapist, so I might be seeing a client or a
Yeah.
supervisee. So I really important in those meetings not just to be all about the business of whatever
Yeah.
the work is, but to also be in the contact. And that's really,
Yeah.
really important. So it is in the course of the work, but
Yeah.
like I'm kind of lucky to have lots of those kind of relational contacts. And I know at
Yeah.
times, and this is a sign of getting disconnected, it's like, oh, we've got a lot to do, let's hurry up, or let's get on to the next thing. But just taking a bit of more moment to not just to do the work, of course, but have the connection as well. And
Yeah. So
really
that
important.
segues beautifully into the heal part, the collective care, the community. And what helps you with that? Like you mentioned your team earlier. Um, you've like, obviously set up a strong system at work. What helps you there, like in an ideal world and also outside work? And what would be your one essential?
Yeah. Well, I think again, I mean, I was going to say I'm lucky, but I think Sandra and I have created online events and nurtured it
Yeah.
and kind of followed it as well, because sometimes it's doing its own thing. We're catching up. Um, and it really is about community and connection and coming together. And I think like often we can think about self-care as being really separate from
Yeah.
work, but and I think lots of colleagues in the helping professions feel this. It's such an important part of life to have meaning
Yeah.
and purpose in life. And Sandra and I think we get a lot of meaning
Yeah.
from creating the spaces where people can come and connect and feel like they're in a place where they're welcomed and
Yeah.
that some good things can happen. And of course, for Sandra and I to be in that too, that's
Yeah.
also very, very feeding and nurturing for us. So there's like the getting of the meaning
Yeah.
and the experiencing of community. Hopefully, our team has that feeling. I mean, we
Yeah.
also work hard because I think what happens in the team happens in
Yeah.
the wider container. So I think that's
Yeah.
that's a real, real source of nourishment and energy for me. Yeah.
That is so lovely. And I'm thinking like in terms of like polyvagal guided approaches, like I use the cats, but that kind of ventral vagal, the pair, it's all about safety and connection. And we thrive when we're in that ventral vagal, like we feel safe, we feel welcome, we feel loved. So the safer, like I always think when you go into any organization, the people on the front line, like at the checkout or wherever, if they're not being treated well, it's a terrible, like it's also obviously terrible for those people not being treated well, but also it makes such bad business sense because Like
Yeah.
when people feel valued and they feel part of something and they're contributing, it transforms everything. And I love what you're saying, even when you notice yourself rushing, that slowing down and enjoying it. And
Yeah.
what helps you with that when things are very hectic? Like, how do you slow down and connect?
Yeah. Um, it's a great question. It's a really good question. Um, well, and I don't always manage it. I think that's an
That's the
important
point
thing
of the
to notice.
podcast.
Yes, I don't always
Ideal.
manage. So if anybody's thinking, "Oh, come along to online events," it always seems great. Like uh, at times we can be as a team, like
Yeah,
the furious paddling under the water, and sometimes
yeah,
we are stressed because things aren't going necessarily to plan. But I also think, well, like work is such a huge part of life, and I want us to feel like we're like this is a good experience. I want that in my life. There are other things I could do for work,
yeah,
and maybe that might be a bit easier,
yeah,
might be could be more profitable, like lots of. But I want to have a life where I feel like I'm doing the kind of things I want to do,
yeah,
and Sandra and I want that for our team too. And I think that's just the reminder of that, and the reminder of how easily that power balance can slip as well.
yeah,
So just because it's nice for me doesn't mean it's nice for everybody else. So just and I mean, we try and meet several times a week in some different parts of the
yeah,
team, and I think being on Zoom and seeing each other and seeing
yeah,
each other's faces, you get a sense of like how is this going, or like, um, and as a kind of someone who's responsible for a team, you can kind of see, oh,
yeah,
maybe that didn't land very well, and maybe there's a different way to say that or a different
yeah,
approach to this project. Um, so I think really being concerned about how everybody is, I think that
yeah,
reflection back to me is always a good reminder. Yeah, and I think that's different because from email or text communication, because it's so easy just to fire off
yeah,
text-based messages. But when you've got someone's face in front of you, you can see how they are.
yeah,
That reflection is really helpful for me. Yeah.
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 Well, thank you so much. Can I ask, if you were to go back to 2009 or any younger you, what advice and love and care and wisdom would you like to share with you at that stage?
Hmm. It's an interesting question. Um, well, 2009, I still didn't have any hair, so it wouldn't be about keeping hair. What would it be about? Well, I think it's like all projects. Sandra and I were so excited to get started and so also concerned that we wouldn't be able to, there wasn't anything we'd be able to do, or
Yeah,
like we wouldn't be able to serve the community in the ways that we wanted to. And I think we've seen over the years, like if you stick at it, things grow,
yeah,
not necessarily in the speed or the direction you think they would. I think that's often the way with projects in life. But if you keep your heart in it, you keep your energy in it, something good will come from that. And so maybe there's something about, well, you don't need to worry about it. Just keep doing what you're doing, and good things will come from that. And yeah.
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 Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me.
Well, thank you, Eve. I really appreciate being here and sharing some of what it's like at online events, and how and about managing in all of
Yeah.
that. So thank you.
And are you you're on social media as well as online events, or is there anywhere else you want people to find you?
We are on all of the socials. I'm not using that so much personally at the
Yeah,
moment. Maybe that's another self-care thing because like if you spread yourself too thin,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah, but
Yeah,
definitely if people check us out, if people put in that unusual, that online vent spelling into Facebook,
yeah,
LinkedIn, Instagram, we're in all those places.
yeah.
Yeah, people can find us for sure. Yeah.
Okay, well, there'll be links in the show notes, and thanks a million.
Thank you, Eve.
Thank you for listening to the Feel Better Everyday podcast. This episode, like all of them, was produced by me, your host, Eve Menezes Cunningham. And if you haven't already and would like to, you're subscribing or sharing or leaving a 5-star review or comment, engaging in whatever way feels good for you, feels right for you. It helps me reach as many people with AuDHD and trauma histories as possible. I want to be able to help as many people as possible with this free resource. So please do, if you think of someone, share it, or leave a comment, leave a rating, and of course reach out, get in touch with me direct if you've got any questions, either in the comments or email eve@selfcarecoaching.net. You can also access loads of free resources at the site selfcarecoaching.net, older episodes of the podcast at the feelbettereverydaypodcast.com, and you can book a free telephone consultation. You can find out more about all the other elements of my work, lots of free resources, lots of ways in which we might work together. And most of all, I hope you'll come back next week. Thank you for listening, and I hope that you'll put some of what you've heard into action and go easy on yourself as you heal your trauma and befriend your AuDHD brain. Thanks again for listening.